Welcome back to DIY Willy, and today we're getting back to the mini bike. I've wanted since I built the mini bike to put front brakes on it, and well, it does stop good with the rear brakes, but they get pretty hot doing all the work. So I think it would be a good idea to put some up on the front. So let's take a look at some of those parts I've bought. So here's what I got. I've got a front brake for the right side. I've got a new rotor, same as the back one. I've got another GoPro Sports adapter. And I've got one of their brake hub adapters too. I'm going to model it such as the one that's on the back. Same step. I'm not sure about the spacing I'm going to have to do here. We'll have to tell when we get into the front. I think this area is going to be a little different in the front. Measurements wise, to figure out what spacing I need to center the caliper and the brake together, but I'm gonna build it like this one. So yeah, I think we'll get started. Got to get the front wheel off and we'll start figuring out how to put the parts on. Now the wheel's a two-piece wheel, and it's much easier to assemble the front this piece, excuse me, it's much easier to assemble this on the front wheel when the wheel's apart, but I'm not going to take it apart. I'm going to do my best to assemble it as one unit like that. So we've seen the parts, we've seen the mini bike. Let's get to work. So right now, for ease of working, I've got the bike sitting up on a paint can. It seems to fit nicely between the frame and rests on the engine plate. Keeps the front wheel off the ground, able to spin it. So I'm going to go ahead and take the front wheel off. And I use 24mm because I have the 5/8 axles, and I use the 24mm to take the bolts off, to take the axle out. All right, let me do that. Looking at the front rotor, I've got it pretty much assembled, but I'm missing some hardware. I'm gonna have to go to the hardware store and pick some stuff up. So I've got the drum adapter bolted to the wheel on the inside. It wasn't easy, but I got it done. I've got the sprocket adapter bolted to the drum adapter with two, right now only two 1/4 20/28 1/2" bolts. I'll put a lock washer on this side when I run them through, and it'll be just perfect. I've got two of them, so I spaced them opposite of each other to hold it even. And I'm also out of 1/4 20 nuts that hold this together, and I don't have any of the 10mm nuts that I use as spacers like I did on the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and and put this back on the bike right now and try to measure out some of the spacing I need and figure out the bracket to mount the caliper. So yeah, let me put the wheel back on and I'll get back with you. Alright guys, here's what we're looking at so far. Here it is on. Like I said, I don't have all the spacers or all the hardware I need to get this solid, but I just wanted to test fit what I have here. And got the handle on, mounted on. I think I'll get a longer handle. It's for the brake itself. The reservoir fits good. I think I'll get a longer handle like this one. It's much longer. So what I'm thinking about doing is we've got these bolt holes here. Now I saw another YouTube channel do something very similar where they could utilize these bolt holes here to support a bracket, because you can't weld to this fork right here. So I'm gonna make a bracket that's gonna bolt here. It's gonna run down and it's gonna bolt to the axle, or it's gonna be cut to where it slips in there and fills that space right there on the axle. So when you tighten the nut, it'll pinch it all together and there'll be the mount right here. So the caliper will mount like that, and it'll bolt to the bracket that we're going to put in there, and all should be well. However, this one has an extremely long brake hose, so I'll be looking for a shorter brake hose for the front too. Alright, so you see my plan. I've got to stop for today, and I'll come back in the morning and try to manufacture the bracket from that bolt down to the axle, and where I can bolt the caliper to it. All right, I hope this works out because I'm using an old GoPro 3. My other one was dead. So I figured out the spacing I needed for the rotor, and it works pretty good. It barely clears the fork. So now I'm gonna go ahead and build the bracket that will house the caliper, like so. And this camera doesn't have some of the features the other one has, so I won't be able to time lapse it and record it. I'll just go ahead and try to build it. I apologize. Okay guys, so what I've got is this bracket. This bracket holds the brake caliper and mounts to the forks and to the axle. Forks mounts here, and of course the axle is this big hole here, big 5/8 hole. So these two holes here in the middle mount the caliper, and it goes like that. Let me put it on so you can see it. All right, so here it is mounted. Since I can't weld anything to the fork, you know, and there is no provisions for a brake caliper, this was my next best alternative. I made this bracket that I showed you earlier. It uses one of the bolt holes existing in the fork that usually hold the fender to bolt to, and that's plenty strong. The other one comes down, the axle slides through it, and when you put the bolt, you put the nut on the outside and tighten it all together, it pinches this and holds it really solid. So let me put the caliper on there and I'll show you what it looks like that. Here's a look at it all put together. I got the caliper bolted in, brackets bolted in. I mean, this thing looks really good, and it works perfectly too. You know, holds everything perfect. Only thing I wish I could find a shorter brake hose. Brake hose is pretty long. It loops around a lot. I could probably find one. I got it zip tied in a couple spots, kind of hold it. But yeah, there it is. It looks really good. Really good. I'm gonna go ahead and put a lock washer up here, and probably one over here too on these bolts right there. But yeah, I like it. It works really good. Everything fits in there. The rotor fits inside. Yeah, I'll show you that in a minute. I just got to finish the assembly on the rotor. Okay. Man, that glare is ridiculous. So I've got the wheel all assembled. All the bolts are in. Got blue Loctite where I couldn't use lock nuts or lock washers. Looks really good. I did have to change the bearing on this side. The bearing, the dust cover came off at some point, and water and dirt and everything else got inside the bearing, causing it to get stuck and not turn right. So I had some extra ones and I changed up the bearing. Now I just got to put the wheel back on, put it all back together, and call it a day. The wheel's on, the bearings are in, brake caliper's on. It all looks good. Look at that. It looks really good. Brake handles up here. Yeah, I like it. We should take it for a ride, see how it works. Alright, so there's a little quick demonstration of how it works. It works really well, and even looks good too. I do notice that the wheel turns a little bit. I know it's in these forks. They're not the greatest quality forks. The spring rate's a little bit light, you know, for smaller riders. So when you hit the brakes, it does compress pretty good, and it does twist a little bit. That's okay, you know, it works. I'm gonna see if I can't lighten up the pressure on the line a little bit. Maybe I can add a little bit of air to it to give it a little spongy feeling, and it won't lock up quite so hard. I don't know. I'm gonna play around with it. I'm also gonna look at a way to put a little preload on the springs on the inside. Maybe put a spacer inside there. Maybe a little bit of more oil, something along those lines, to stiffen them up a little bit. They work perfectly as they are, but with the front brakes it does dive quite a bit, and I think if I put a little bit of a spacer in there, I might preload the springs, and maybe it won't dive quite so hard. So yeah, that's a good project. I've been wanting to put these brakes on for a while. I've had the parts sitting in a box forever, and turned out really good. Simple process. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, give it a like, leave a comment. If you haven't already, please subscribe. DIY Willy. And thanks for coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.